and the lights turned down, and the Year 10 dance class was on the front row of the stage, including myself. That is when it all turned to trouble. It's Mel here, and welcome back to Mel's Blind Life, the YouTube channel all about blindness. I hope you guys are well. I hope everyone is also enjoying my content lately. I'm really happy to say that we have got about 208 subscribers. Thank you all so much for joining the channel recently. Welcome to the family, and I hope that you stick around. Now, as you can see by the title for today's video, I'm talking about an incident that happened actually quite a number of years ago. It is over 10 years since this accident happened, but it's still probably the funniest thing that happened and one of the most dramatic things that happened. Not necessarily because of my blindness, but my blindness was probably a contributor to it. Now, I especially wanted to tell you guys this story to try and lighten up the mood a little bit from last week's blindness related video, which was about my diagnosis with rod cone dystrophy, and I had my mum in as my special guest. So we're talking today about the time I fell off the stage when I was in year 10 at school. So when I was in year 10 at high school, I was a massive theatre nerd. I loved being part of the performing arts. I was in several shows both at school and at a local youth theatre called Mount Players Theatre, which was in Mount Macedon, not very far from where I grew up. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the other people who were involved in the theatre studies and in the youth theatre. Our teacher was pretty awesome, and we had so many good times. We did a lot of really good shows to a really high standard, I felt. We just had an exceptionally fun time. We used to have a musical every year at my high school. We did a musical in the first and second terms of the year. So in the first semester of the year, all of the kids from year 8 right up until year 12 were allowed to become part of the school production. Children who were in kids who were in year 10, 11 and 12 had 5 periods a week of production, as well as a after school rehearsal, and kids in year 8 and 9 had 3 periods a week of production rehearsal, as well as an after school rehearsal. Also, if you had a lead role, you had to go to lunchtime rehearsals. So it was a pretty big deal. We had a couple of dress rehearsals on some Sundays. We also had, I think it might have been 1 or 2 dress rehearsals on a sort of weekday, like a Thursday or Friday or something like that. That was a matinee dress rehearsal for the local primary school kids to come and watch our play for that year. And we also did a full season of shows. So we put the production on, I think it was Friday night, Saturday night and Sunday afternoon matinee for 2 weekends. So we did 6 public performances. I think it was 2 primary school matinees, a couple of dress rehearsal run-throughs on Sundays that only the sort of teachers and that saw, and it was a pretty big deal. So in 2009, I was in the production, and I was one of the year 10 students. So I had 5 periods a week of production. So 2 periods a week I had theatre studies, and which was a theoretical class where we had to do a portfolio of work from the production itself. So you had to do a folder of information about how you learnt your stagecraft. So mine was acting for that particular one. You had to talk about the rehearsals, you had to write a diary for each rehearsal, and you had to do some research into the play, and you had to put your research into the folio. You also had to put, we had these performance analysis and things that we had to fill out about the performance. We also had an outcome thing that we had to fill out that was the end of every stage of the production. So we had to fill out one for the planning stage, the rehearsal stage, the performance stage, and the evaluation stage of the production. So that was what we had 2 periods every week to do, and then the other 3 periods were just rehearsals. So as I said, I was an actor in our 2009 production of Jekyll and Hyde the musical. I had a very small speaking role. I literally only had 1 line towards the very end of the production. I basically just had to say I was the priest at the wedding at the end of Jekyll and Hyde, and I just had to do the whole, if he or she, if anyone objects to this marriage, they needed to speak now or forever hold their peace, basically. But as well as that speaking role, I was obviously in the chorus, which everyone practically was. If you had a speaking part or not, you still had to be, if you wanted to be on stage, you had to either be a chorus, an actor, or a dancer. So I was on stage for quite a few things, and I really, really enjoyed it. On the last night of our school productions at our high school, on the Saturday night, that was the final performance. After all of the audience went home, we cleaned up the hall a little bit where we performed, and we had a production party. This party was really awesome. We had snacks and drinks, and we all just got to dance and let our hair down and really enjoy the production, celebrate how it went, and just let our hair down after having spent basically 2 whole terms, so nearly 6 months, working really intensely on this production together as a group. That particular night, I was actually part of the year 10 dance class as well that semester, and one of the pieces that we had worked on for our class as a group was the Thriller Dance by Michael Jackson. So at one stage during the party, we had the music playing, and we had all the strobe flashy lights going, and it was all really, exciting, really party atmosphere. And you've got to remember, we were all teenagers, and two of our several, I think 3 or 4 teachers, at least 3 or 4 of our teachers were sort of young adults as well, in their 20s and 30s. So we had a pretty big party going on. We were rocking the roof off that school hall, I tell ya. But when the Thriller Dance came on, and the lights turned down, and the year 10 dance class was on the front row of the stage, including myself, that is when it all turned to trouble. Our stage had this bit on the edge of it that kind of poked out. So we had a bit of a curb basically in the front of our extended stage. The actual stage that was built in that school hall over 120 something years ago was actually far too small for school production to be held in that hall. So what we used to do was we had this big extended stage that the backstage crew would bring in and build onto the edge of the main stage. And that extended stage had this bit that it went out and sort of back in. It did this little dip out to the front, which was perfectly fine. It gave us a tiny bit of stage room. But what happened on that night was, as the year 10 class came up to do the Thriller dance, someone, I can't even remember who it was, someone sort of said something along the lines to me of, you have to dance in the front row of the stage because you were in the class and you learnt the dance in class. So I said, yep, fine, no worries. And we had a big line of us on the front of the stage, and there was no, because the lights were all bouncy and different colours and everything like that, and the stage, the surface of the stage was black, and I had very little depth perception. I don't remember actually being able to see the edge of that stage as we danced that night. So we started doing the Thriller dance. I don't actually remember how far we were into the Thriller dance. And then the next thing I can remember is literally lying on my back with the theatre studies teacher at the time, who was the director of our productions and everything, sort of kneeling over me. I think she was shouting at someone to bring the house lights back up and to stop the music. I can't remember that, but I remember her shouting at someone. I remember the house lights coming back up and lying on the floor in the hall and just thinking to myself, well, how did I get here? So apparently what had happened was the blind girl had had an ABM, also known as awkward blind moment, and I had fallen off the stage. Apparently, I don't know how, but apparently I hit my head on my way down. I also hit my leg on the way down. I got big massive bruise, and there's actually still to this day a slight sort of bump in the shin bone of my left leg where I hit it probably on either the edge of the stage or the edge of a metal rubbish bin that was on the edge of the stage, like for people to put their rubbish in, just underneath the edge of the stage. So I'm lying there. I've got no idea how I got there. Everyone's sort of going, oh my gosh, you know, what happened? And our theatre studies teacher was sort of kneeling beside me, and I don't actually remember very much about receiving first aid or anything like that. I do remember someone bought the blanket that we had to cover the piano over and put it on top of me. And I also remember someone gave me a handful of like the Jube lollies, Alan's party mix, and was like, you have to eat these to, you know, you have to have sugar to stop you from getting shock. And I don't remember that very much at all. I remember my friend Beck was like talking to me and making sure I was okay. And I remember our theatre studies teacher being there, and at one stage someone asked me for my mum's phone number. I was just like, I don't know. I think I told someone to actually get my phone out of my bag and, like, you know, ring my mum. And then an ambulance was called because I had obviously hit my head and knocked myself out. They called an ambulance. Now, we were actually very lucky that night because one of my aunties, one of the ones who can drive, was actually visiting us to watch that production. And because she lived so far away, she didn't go home after the show. She was going home the following day. So I can only just remember that we were very lucky because it was 1 o'clock in the morning when the school called my mum and told them that I'd had an accident and fallen off the stage. If my auntie hadn't have been there, I probably would have had to be taken to either Bendigo or somewhere other hospital that would have been really hard for my mum to get to at that time of day or night. So we were really lucky that my auntie was there. So my auntie came with my mum and the paramedics came. They gave me a full checkup. By this time, most of the kids had actually gone home. I think I can remember the hall was like clearing out and there weren't as many kids and teachers and stuff around. I can't remember a lot of them being there. I'm certain that a lot of people came up to me and made sure that I was all right when I was lying there on the floor. I know also that at one stage, someone helped me get up off the floor onto a chair, which was a great relief because the floor was hardwood and it was the middle of winter, so it was probably only about 2 or 3 degrees. I can remember the paramedics coming and they weren't sure whether they should take me to the hospital or not, but because my auntie was there, my mum basically said to them, it seems to only be a slight concussion. Would be easier for us because my mum was blind and my dad's got low vision and we didn't have a car. They said, it would be easier for us to just take her home. The paramedics probably gave us some advice for what to do to prevent any kind of further damage and to, keep me out of pain and stuff like that. But we ended up going home and Mum was just going to keep an eye on me to make sure that I didn't get worse or anything. So at probably about 2 o'clock in the morning, I went home. As I said, I don't remember a lot of it. I do remember going home and I remember being like so sore, like my head was pounding. It felt like my head was gonna fall off my neck. I have had migraines before. I get migraines a lot, and this was completely different to a migraine though. I was dizzy and oh man, it was just crazy. So I don't remember much of the weekend afterwards. I am certain that somehow I probably tried to study on maybe the Sunday, but definitely the Monday of that weekend. That was a long weekend in June. It was the Queen's birthday weekend. So we actually have the Monday off school that week. And in year 10, that 4-day week at the end of June in Australia is when you do mid-year exams. So I probably had Sunday trying to recover from my concussion, which I definitely had. And I probably spent Monday studying or something. I don't remember that week very much. I certainly don't remember it from a very detailed point of view. But that was probably, as I said, the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and maybe one of the funniest that's ever happened because of my blindness, or back then low vision. So the following year, when I was in the next school production, which was The Boyfriend, the musical, which I loved. I had an even bigger speaking role in that one. The following year, when I was in The Boyfriend, I got the backstage crew of our school production to actually paint a big, thick, like the thickness of your arm, kind of white line on the edge of the stage, so that I could see the white line on the contrast of the black stage and not fall off again the following year. So my white line was done in 2010 for that production, and it was an extremely successful idea, and it was certainly a great relief knowing where the edge of the stage was. So I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. I'm sorry if I rambled a little bit, and I hope that you got a bit of a laugh out of it this week. It was, as I said, it was definitely a little bit funny and a little bit crazy. Also, I just want to let you guys know that I am possibly going to be a little bit here and there with uploads over the next couple of weeks, because on the 30th of January I'm going on another cruise. So after the 30th of January until about the 12th or 13th of November, I'm going to apologise for the fact that uploads might be a little bit all over the place, just because of the internet situation on the ship. It isn't a very good connection. It takes a very long time for uploads to happen, and it's not worth trying to do it. So I'm going to be recording vlogs every single day on the ship, but I possibly won't get to upload those daily vlogs until such time as I'm either back here in Australia or on a public Wi-Fi network in New Zealand. So please bear with me for that, guys. But also remember to hit me up on Instagram, Facebook, etc, etc, etc. All of the links are down in the description down below. And thank you very much for watching this video. Please remember to subscribe to my channel to get more content all about blindness, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you've got any questions or any funny stories that have happened like that to you. And remember to share this video with your friends and family, and I will see you all very soon. Thank you all so much for watching. Love you guys. Bye.